Well, hello everybody. It's Dr. Carmen Bryant, and this is Car Chronicles. How you guys doing? You guys ready? Let's do this. Had a conversation with one of my sisters, and she said something that was very profound, something that I had been teaching, something that I believe in when it comes to therapy. But when she said it, it just wakes you up like that. That's just good. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it was because she's going to write a book about it, but I want you to know, let's put it like this first. Remember the game Battleship? Battleship is a game at which you have to figure out where the ship is on the other side of this petition that you have. And so you're having to guess the location of the ship. And when you find the location of the ship, you have to figure out what direction the ship is in so that you can blow the ship up of your opponent, right? Well, when you touch the ship, they're going to let you know it's a hit, right? Well, I want you to think of triggers like that. Whenever there's a trigger in your life, there's a hit at an area at which you have not recovered or healed from. And many people reach out to me and kind of like throw a puzzle on the ground and say, okay, I'm out of this situation. What do I need to do? Where do I start in my healing process? What do I do? Well, first of all, I've got to know you one-on-one, do one-on-one in order to kind of put the edges of the puzzle together in order to figure out how are we going to put this puzzle piece together, right? For those people that are out of the situation, not for people that are still in the situation. This is for the people that are out of the situation. When you are triggered, it is an indicator as to where you still need healing, where there's still a sensitive spot that you need to address. And sometimes, as you're working with coaches, therapists, mentors, professionals, in order to help you in an area in which you've been wounded, they have to go from least invasive to most invasive to find out the depth or the seriousness of the wound. In therapy, I tell clients in the very beginning, I say we start from the least invasive to the most invasive, just like they do in the medical world. In the medical world, they go in and they listen to you tell them about the symptoms that you have, correct? They may run some MRIs or CAT scans. They may do x-rays to find out. And then they start from physical therapy. They may start with pain medications to see whether or not it's improving. They continue to check you to see, what is the diagnosis? What is the prognosis? What we have going on here, but it's a continuous basis until it gets to a point where they realize in order for us to fix this problem, we're going to have to cause another injury in order to repair what is broken or what is damaged. And in the process of creating another wound, this wound is a helpful wound. This wound is a purposeful wound. This injury that we're getting ready to cause to you serves a purpose. Bishop Jakes, for those of you guys that know Bishop Jakes on one of his sermons said that this is a purposeful pain. This is a purposeful pain. The purposeful pain, the purpose of the pain is in the process of the healing. And so for many of you guys that are out now seeking help, the pain that you're going to experience can be very excruciating, can be worse than the original pain. I think Bishop Jakes talked about the time in which he had back surgery, and it was really horrific because I think he said they had to cut 3 inches into his back. And when they cut 3 inches into his back when he came out of surgery, he said it was the most excruciating pain that he had ever experienced. The pain was worse than the original pain that he had in the first place. And from that point forward, you have to think there's a process of pain that you're going through in the recovery process. And for most of you guys that have been in narcissistic relationships, even come out of narcissistic homes, those of you that have been wounded, abused, neglected, rejected, some of the most horrific things that you've been through, the process of healing is ugly, and the process of healing is very painful. But for most people, they want relief. And so they're thinking that when you come out of this traumatic situationship that you've been in, I just want relief. I don't want to feel the pain again. Even in the triggers, because most people have been abused by somebody in a position of authority, a position of like a parent, a parental figure, a husband, wife, someone that was in a position of authority or a position of power. And so you have to remember that when you're dealing with a narcissist takes, it's a power and control thing. That's what domestic violence is. It's a power and control, it's abuse of power and control. They can be in positions of power and control, and they abuse power and control. They abuse the authority that they have. They misuse that authority that they have been granted in a person's life. And so what happens is when you meet mentors or therapists or coaches that, number one, are not going to let you manipulate them, because you have to remember that even though you were manipulated and even though you were abused, you have learned to manipulate and abuse or manipulate in order to get your needs met. And when you meet people like coaches and therapists and mentors that have boundaries and won't allow you to cross their boundaries and are very strict in their boundaries and their standards, oftentimes you misinterpret that as abuse, because you can't get what you want and it's not easy for you to get what you want. So it's a constant reminder of what you went through before, that this is teaching you something new. This is teaching you healthy boundaries, healthy authority. And for most people, they're triggered by that. They're triggered by that by saying, you remind me of my mother. You remind me of my father. You remind me of the person I just got out of a situationship with. You are just like them. And it's not the fact that you are just like them or that person is just like them. It's the fact that they're using their authority appropriately and they're not going to allow you to abuse or misuse. And the only way that many people have gotten their needs met is because they have to bully or they have to manipulate or have to use scare tactics in order to get what they need and what they want. And so because if it doesn't work with some people, then of course you are the bully. You are the person that is the controller. You are the manipulator. No, what it is I'm not going to allow you to run over me while I'm trying to help you in your healing process because you are screaming out in pain. For some people that are still in the situation, of course you're going to be triggered. You're still in the situation. You're not even in a healing process. You want to heal, but you don't want to leave the situation. And for some people, what I can understand, it's a financial situation. You have nowhere to go, but there are resources out there. And when the student is ready, the teacher is going to appear. The resources are going to appear. But until you finally make up your mind to leave the situation, of course you're going to be triggered. Of course you're going to be hurt. And there's nothing that a lot of people can do besides give you some resources to help you get out of the situation. But there are some people that are not ready to get out of the situation. And so they call the assistance a failure. The assistance is a failure because of the fact that you don't want to change your situation. You have to change your environment. But you have to remember that the process of healing is a very ugly, swallow my spit. But it's a very ugly, painful process. And when you get out of the situation, you're going to cause some wounds. But those wounds, just like in the game of Battleship, just like when you're going into a doctor, they have to feel for, you have to feel for, where are my tender spots? Where are the areas in which I am still hurting and wounded? How are you going to heal if you don't even know where you are still hurting? I remember I was triggered. I was triggered by a gentleman. I'm 5'8.5". When I put on my heels, I'm about 6 feet tall. And this gentleman was probably about 6'2", 6'3". But he triggered me so bad. Oh, he triggered me so bad that it didn't matter how big he was. I was going to fight. I was going to get in a fight. As old as I am, I was going to fight. And then it dawned on me, and I was hot to trot. You hear me? And then it dawned on me that a lot of the trigger came from things that happened to me in high school that he was doing and repeating, which I could have just blew off and just told him about himself. Listen, you're too old for that. You need to get yourself together, blah, 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 and went about my business. But I was so triggered and so offended that I lost it and I reacted to it because I was trying to defend myself because I was young at the time and didn't know how to defend myself. That right there let me know, and this was years ago, let me know where I needed to recover, where I needed help, where are some sensitive spots. And that's for a lot of you too. You're asking for help, but you don't want to go through the process. You want to be at a certain place, but you don't want to go through the process. You cannot eliminate the process and assume that you're going to be healthy. When you are triggered, you need to stop and look. This is an area in my life in which I need to recover. This is an area in my life in which I realize that I need to work on. I need to go to therapy, and this is what I need to work on. And if you're triggered in therapy, good. That right there is a controlled trigger. You have to let yourself be triggered in order for you to learn where you are still hurting and need recovery.